8 minutes past 3, BBC Radio Voucher. Justin Lavender joins me now, waiting in the wings forever, Justin. Had we left you sort of sitting in the airport lounge out there?
Yes, I was waiting quite a long time, but it's lovely to see you, Mike.
Marvellous, marvellous, marvellous. No, I mean, I was just saying, it's a bizarre toss-up, so nuclear engineering or opera singing.
So my family thought at the time.
Yes.
But they came round in the end.
Yes, it's like, well, at least then you had a proper job to fall back on, which is good, presumably.
No, I don't understand proper jobs. I live in the real world. That's music.
Spot on.
Sure you understand
Spot on.
That.
I know, amazingly, Peter Pears and Benjamin Britten persuaded you to go into singing. And of course, they were just down the road from Sizewell. So if you hadn't liked the singing, you could have gone back to nuclear engineering just up the coast.
That conversation did crop up at the time. Yes,
I bet it did. Yeah, I somehow felt it, Mike. Because if you walk up from Aldborough, of course, you get that delightful sort of yellow haze that heralds Sizewell.
Wow, did you know it well?
Yes.
Yeah,
I walked up there, of course, you know places like Snape Maltings and Aldborough quite well because
very well
Britain.
indeed. Yes, very
beautiful part of the coast,
yeah.
Eroding but beautiful.
Yeah, it's still there, but I enjoy not going there to sing. I enjoy going there to sail. Actually, I have a friend I sail with her. It's very, very pleasant.
Yeah, and you're a rower as well.
Yes, when I've got the time.
Yeah.
Well, I'm getting a bit old and decrepit for it, really. I bob up and down the Thames occasionally, and in other people's wakes.
Yeah, well, that's good fun. You go to Henley this week? You going to Regatta?
No, I wish I had time. I love going there. I've often been there, but it's a great atmosphere.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic. Yeah. I mean, I cycle down the towpath in the evening, and people mistake me for someone, guiding their boat. I'm often tempted to go, all right, keep it steady, and pretend I've got a megaphone, because they see you cycling and they look over and they think that you're their allotted cyclist.
Do you know, it's very hard to coach a crew with a megaphone, cycling along the bank, and not cycle into the river.
Absolutely. Absolutely, I'm sure it is. But, I mean, did you row, quite seriously at one time?
Well, yeah, I'm too small. These days I would have made it into a lightweight crew, but lightweight crews didn't exist when I was doing it at school and university. But
right.
I was pretty keen, actually, yeah.
Yeah, that's the problem for them now. They have to keep their weight down, don't they, to qualify for that?
Yeah, but being a small guy, it didn't really matter, I would have been light enough.
Yeah, okay. It does look beautiful on a summer's evening to see the crews out there.
Oh, it's brilliant, yeah. And where I row on the Thames, we often get some of the national squad training as well from Molesey Rowing Club, and it's wonderful to see them. Yeah. I saw lots of the future gold medalists at the training before the Olympics last year. It was very, very exciting.
Yeah. Oh, no, so that's a beautiful area. We're talking about Henley, but of course, Hampton Court, Molesey, Walton, all that stretch up there up to Richmond as well. Yeah. Beautiful stretch of the road.
We're very, very lucky to live there. Yeah. It's great.
Absolutely. Yeah. So what kicked off your interest in rowing? Was it just
rowing? I didn't know we were going to talk about rowing.
We'll talk about everything. Yes.
Well, I went to a school that was very keen on rowing, Bedford Modern School in Bedford, rowing on the Ouse, and I wasn't any good at rugby because I was too spindly, and I was terrified of a cricket ball, so I ended up in the boat club rowing and thoroughly enjoyed it. It seemed the safest option, I think.
Yeah, well, a wet bob. Good stuff. So, I mean, Peter Pears, Benjamin Britten. I remember when I was a kid, and we had a large billiard table. I was promised I could play on when I was 17. And at the time when you're 4, you think that's never going to happen. This is an empty promise. And we had a radio. I remember up on the shelf, and of all the things that came out of that radio, I remember this voice going, "My delight on the holy night and the season of the year, for well I serve my master," and that was Peter Pears singing the Lincolnshire Poacher.
Good God!
It was the only song that is etched on my memory that came out of that radio for all those years.
Well, I think he was very memorable, and he's been a huge influence on you, hasn't he?
Well, clearly,
as he was on me.
I thought he was singing initially, "'Tis mighty bright on a scout's delight in the sea." I don't know why, because I think I wanted to be a scout, but it wasn't at all. As a kid, you mishear the lyrics.
Well, it's a bit like Jimi Hendrix saying, "Excuse me while I kiss this guy."
Exactly.
It's just the same thing.
Exactly. But I mean, how did you encounter that? Because they were real force to be reckoned with.
I joined a choir at university,
and
the first piece we did was Britten's War Requiem. Became fascinated by his music, started going to concerts, anything with Benjamin Britten in it. Ended up going to a recital of Peter Pears at the Queen Elizabeth Hall. Queued for his autograph afterwards. He asked me what I was doing and became interested. Said I was a tenor, and he said, "Oh, you must come and sing for me." So I went and sang for him in his London flat, and he became my teacher. That's how it all started.
Fantastic.
Turned my entire life upside down.
Is that the one with the blue plaque on the Brompton Road?
No, he was in Islington. Is there one in the Brompton?
Yeah, there's a plaque. I see it. The road I come down, it's often facing me, and I see it a lot. Yeah.
No, don't know that one. I must look for it. Yeah. No. It's something like 107. I can't remember the name of the road in Islington. Yeah.
Amazing. I mean, it's amazing to think I remember he died just as I was starting in radio, which had been like 76, 77.
That was Ben who died then.
Was it? Yeah.
Peter lasted.
Oh no, I meant Benjamin Britten.
Oh, I see. I
was talking about Benjamin Britten.
Yeah, I see.
Yeah, he died 76, 77. I remember, didn't he? Yes.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, it was very sad. He had a stroke during an operation and never really recovered after that. Who knows? His output was still prolific right to the end.
Yeah.
I hear he was perhaps writing an operatic version of King Lear. What might that have been like? Many composers have thought of it, and no one's ever completed it.
And quite a keen tennis player as well, wasn't he? Played a bit of tennis.
So they had a tennis court there.
Yes.
That never involved me. Moving balls defeat me, but. But they had a very nice swimming pool, which has now been built over and turned into a museum. But
it's a shame when people do that. I was out in Jamaica and I went to Fireflight in Old Coward's house, right up on top of the hill, and as part of the garden, I thought, what's this? This looks messy. So it's a swimming pool that's been boarded over. And when you think of the people that were in the pool, all the great names, you think, oh, you should have kept it as a pool.
Yeah, I know what you mean. We have a piano at home which belongs to the Ebert family. And Carl Ebert was the founding stage director at Glyndebourne, the Glyndebourne Festival Opera back in the 1920s. And it's come into our possession. And it's a terrible piano in the sense that it's falling to bits, it's got a cracked soundboard and everything. But you think of all the great musicians who've worked around that piano, played it, sung to it, been conducted at it. It's irreplaceable. You can't put a value on it. I love that instrument.
You always think some magic's going to flew around. I'm going to Tittenhurst Park, and there's a piano there, John Lennon's piano. There's a little plaque on the side that said, the following songs were written on this piano, and it named them. I thought, you can't help, whoever you are, but put your hands on the piano.
You'd have to do it.
Something's going to happen.
You'd have to do it. It's like the Cobb collection, where they collect instruments in Surrey, which have all been played by famous people, famous composers, Chopin, Elgar.
Yeah.
I think there's one played by Napoleon. And you can... Actually, I had a private showing, and I actually had a go on all of them.
Oh,
it was wonderful,
Some of these things are amazing. I remember when I was doing a lot of TV, a couple of young girls wrote to me and said, our family used to live in your house. My parents would love to come back and see it, and they did. And the guy at the time, I think, was High Sheriff of Surrey, and he walked in, and I had a book on the table on Beatrice Harrison, the cellist. And he said, what are you doing with this? Is this for me? And I said, no, I'm just reading it. He said, well, the Harrison sisters used to play in this room. They used to play in this very room. I had no idea. So it is amazing how these things happen.
Well, I think in opera, you walk out on a set of boards, and you think of all the great singers who've gone before you. I'm not saying I'm great. I'm sort of walking in great men's footsteps. And you think, well, Caruso stood here and sang Rodolfo. This is marvellous, And that happened to me at the Teatro Massimo in Palermo. And you get a sense of continuity. You get a sense of being joined to the people. You feel as though you know Mozart, Puccini, whoever it was, and you could almost telephone them and ask them their advice about something. In fact, I sometimes pretend to do that in lessons.
Good idea. We'll talk more in a moment with Justin Lavender, musical director of Opera Upstage. I'm now having the pleasure of working with Justin Lavender, who indeed had the pleasure of working with Peter Pearce and Benjamin Britten and various other people, including, I think, our mutual friend Stephen Cleobury up at King's.
Yes, I've known him 30 years now.
Yeah.
What an amazing guy. He's actually been there, I think, longer than any other director of music has been at King's.
Yeah.
And is absolutely an institution in his own right.
A guy who was there for a very, very long time, since the early 20s, I think, when I was up there working with Stephen, was the old Don Dady Rylance. He went up, I think, in 1921 and never left. And he had a collection of his room was a treasure trove of things owned by Virginia Woolf, Lytton Strachey, E.M. Forster, Rupert Brooke. He had everything. He had this wonderful treasure trove, wonderful character.
Well, I'm not a Cambridge man myself, so I don't know about that.
He was wonderful. But Stephen, absolutely brilliant. I mean, they did 5 of my choral pieces, because I worked quite a lot with another chap you might know, the old Eton precentor Ralph Allwood.
Yes, I do. I met him towards the end of his career at Eton. I did his last Verdi Requiem there at Eton College, but yeah,
two very nice, very talented guys.
Yeah. I find Stephen a very benign and passionate man, passionate music maker, and the idea that someone like me, who's actually at the hardcore end of operatic singing, has gone in to train the choral scholars at King's College Chapel, I think is a highly imaginative decision, because I don't really represent how they're thought of traditionally.
Yeah.
My sort of singing can happen without a helpful acoustic. Theirs can't, or not in the past. So the idea has been to give them some kind of bel canto future, that they can leave there and have a career and know how to do it. And it seems to be working. We're turning out some very good singers there now. We've got a very good choir.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, the choir there was always good anyway. I mean, when I said to him, may we film while you're recording the 5 pieces, there were Brooks' war sonnets. That I set to music. I said, can we film? And I said, having been there before, I thought I'd seen them by candlelight, all in their clothes, looking good. But of course they didn't. They recorded in jeans and T-shirts, and there's Stephen saying, tuck your shirt in, tuck your shirt in. Yeah. So it hadn't got the romantic appeal that I thought the filming might have.
Well, on the other hand, your listeners now, Mike, I mean, what do they imagine you might be wearing? Maybe I could tell them, I don't know. We're here. I mean, certain members of Opera at Bearwood would be delighted to know that Mike Reed is now wearing a very short pair of shorts, as he broadcasts to you.
Yes. The white shorts, the blue pullover, the sort of general summery, sporty look.
Yes. It's summer at the BBC, even if it isn't outside.
Absolutely. Well, bizarrely, it's a typical Brit. I came in like this, shorts and shirt and top, and an umbrella. How foolish is that? So, you've got coming up. Is this your first thing at Bearwood, Carmen?
Yes. I came in to conduct Le Villi for them, Puccini's first opera last summer, and I think the appointment came as a result of that. They seem to be pleased with what I did.
This is your first as an incumbent?
This is my first as an incumbent, yes, exactly so.
So it's Bizet's Carmen, performed in English, which does help sometimes. When you get something, you think, if you don't understand it, sometimes you get the passion, but you don't quite understand.
We have a particularly good translation done by the conductor, Howard Williams, who was out in Hungary a few years ago, and I think he had a very wet week to deal with without any rehearsals, and he decided to translate Carmen. And he's come up with a beautifully demotic and singable translation, which has none of the sort of... The big difference is that most translations into English, the translators try to fit English words to the composer's notes. Right. Howard, being such an innate musician, has adapted Bizet's rhythm slightly to fit the English language, and so it sounds natural. You don't get that kind of thing that happens so often in English National Opera, where extra little sort of conjunctions have to be put in to fit the music and so on.
That's interesting.
And it really works, and we're having great fun doing it.
That's an interesting way of doing it. That's very, very good. This is coming up 16th to the 19th of July, 7:30. I won't give you all the times, but presumably people can pop online at... Opera at Bearwood and check everything out, can't they, really?
Yes, it's all there, opera@bearwood.org.uk. You can book your tickets there. It's a marvellous venue, actually. It's a purpose-built theatre with a small pit and for the orchestra, and they've got lovely grounds there. People bring picnics, and there's limitless parking, lovely landscape grounds, and... People generally have a pretty good time there. It's a great thing to do. I would urge people to buy tickets now and come and see Carmen at Opera at Bearwood.
When you say a small pit, I envisage a diminutive Prime Minister from years gone by. Pitt the Younger.
Yes.
We have a small pit. Hello.
Were he were alive now, he would be buying tickets for Carmen.
He would. You're MD for it. You presumably put the whole thing together. Are you performing in it as well?
No, not at all. I'm just conducting.
Right.
Well, in the sense that I'm not singing, yes, I'm not performing, but I'm the conductor, I'm the musical director. And we have a very fine stage director for this production, Eileen Pinkachevsky, who works at Brunel University and Wellington College, very experienced, and she has worked with the company before. And she's come up with some very original ideas. We wondered about the fact that the year that Bizet wrote Carmen, 1875, I hadn't realised this, there was a dreadful civil war raging in Spain at the time called the Third Carlist War. I'd never heard of this until recently, to my shame. Thousands of people died. And there was an awful lot of sort of smuggling of weapons going on from one side to the other. And we thought maybe the smugglers in Carmen could actually be gun runners. So that's the slant we're putting on it. And, maybe Carmen seduces Don José, the young soldier, so she can get the keys to the armoury and get weapons for the other side.
Excellent. A good idea.
Yeah.
A good. Now, with these productions, are they productions that you're hopefully going to move on around the country as a Bearwood production, or are they solely in-house?
No, it's solely in-house. I mean, this is an amateur company based in the Winnersh area around Bearwood, southeast of Reading, and it just exists solely to perform there. It'd be a wonderful idea to take it elsewhere, but I can't think we'd ever get the show on the road, to be honest. It's a pity because it's pretty good, actually, and we've got a wonderful final scene, very, very original setting of the final scene.
It's always frustrating, isn't it, when you do it? The last night, you feel so empty.
Yes, but you've got to get back to the theatre to do the get out, and it's all hands on deck for that. So we're all going to be doing breaking down the set and getting it out. So there'll be a bit of camaraderie there, I suppose.
Oh, I'm sure. So we have Cameron, Bizet's Carmen. Cameron would be good to do it, wouldn't he? Cameron McIntosh doing Carmen, brilliant. And that is 16th to the 19th. And we'll talk more about that in a moment. And a few of my favourite things coming up, yes?
Right, yeah.
BBC Radio Berkshire. BBC Radio Berkshire, my guest is the opera singer Justin Lavender. And we were just talking about various things while that was on, including Stephen Fry's obsession for sugar puffs when he was younger. But we'll draw a veil over that and move on to a few of your favourite things, Justin. Nobody really needs to know about that, do they? But we were talking about Stephen actually not being able to sing and the fact he's written a libretto that's being performed.
Oh, yes, they're doing an opera tomorrow night at the Royal College of Music, which life of me, I can't remember any details of it, but and he didn't write the music for it, but I just love the irony that he's involved with an opera. And I believe he's there at rehearsal today.
And knows nothing about music at all, and cannot sing a note by his own admission.
Oh, yeah, so it's rumoured, yes. You listen, I'm sorry I haven't a clue, you get the evidence.
Yeah, no, absolutely, whether he did the piano thing at the end. Yeah, Hugh Laurie tried many times, but he said he failed dismally. I was just saying to you, he went to a Hungarian teacher who said, I'm sorry, go back home and eat your sugar puffs.
We think that teacher must have been Vera Rocha, and she could be a very honest person.
Yes, yeah, I think you're probably right. So, Justin, to a few of my favourite things. How long have we got? I was looking at the time here. Favourite book, Tolstoy's War and Peace. We needn't discuss in depth, but... Oh,
I'm glad to hear it. If you could discuss it in depth, I suppose you'd be Tolstoy, wouldn't you? Marvellous. I mean, all human life is in that book. I discovered it in my late teens. Just felt I'd gone into a not quite parallel universe where things worked out for the best, and the characters were understandable, real human people who have dealt with real human problems. I think the journey that Pierre Bezukhov goes on is just fantastic, and I want to be him. Later on I was in an opera. It happened, yeah.
I mean, it's not a book you can read twice, obviously. I mean, you read it once and you think, can I ever wade through it again?
Well, I did wade through it again, because when I got the part of Pierre Bezukhov in the opera, they were doing it at the Spoleto Festival, I auditioned for one of the smaller parts, but it turns out I was one of the few tenors who actually bothered to learn an aria in Russian for the audition. They said, well, Menotti, who's directing, said, well, what about Piotr Bezukhov? And I said, well, isn't he a big, tall, fat man? And they said, well, we'll give you padding. So I did it. Wow. And it was recorded. You can get it on the Chandos label. And I think it's still the only complete recording.
The Chandos label. Gosh, I remember the Chandos label. Wonderful, yes.
And it's the late Richard Hickok's conducting.
Yeah. Wonderful, wonderful. Yeah, the sort of book to have in your loo. We had Gibbon's Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire in our loo, and heaven knows why. Who's going to be in there long enough to read that?
Well, I think Decline and Fall, if things are going badly in the loo, that might be the right thing to be reading.
And favourite film, Justin?
Well, yeah, oh, God, that puts me on the spot. But I've always enjoyed Some Like It Hot, without being a film buff at all. There's something particularly about Marilyn Monroe in that film that turns me on. She came from an era where you didn't have to be... You were allowed to have a little bit of surface fat. And I find that very, very sexy. The way she moves when she gets off the train and she walks down the platform, the camera follows her from behind.
Yeah.
I could die happily to that vision.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree with you. People always think they have these very, very ultra skinny models, size 0 and all the rest of it. And I particularly, it might look good, but it's not very sexy. So right, a few curves.
Why is she such an icon? Because she was so sexy like that. I mean, she used to go running to keep fit, but that was all. Brigitte Bardot, the same.
Yeah.
Don't suppose she worked out particularly, but God, what a woman.
Yeah, it'd be interesting.
Who is there like that now? I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know, Juliette Binoche.
Yeah, maybe you have to sort of die young in a way, because now, I mean, Brigitte Bardot does look like a very old lady now. What would Marilyn Monroe look like had she lived, and would she still be revered as an icon? Maybe not. James Dean the same. If he was a curmudgeonly old git, he was, oh, James Dean.
But you didn't think that you didn't say, oh, I don't know who Brigitte Bardot is, just because she has survived. You're remembering her as she was.
Yeah.
You know, when she was knocking around with the likes of Picasso and so on many years ago.
I think you tend to become more of an icon if you die young. I don't think there's any question about that. Because no one can ever remember you as an old person, ever.
Is that where we've gone wrong?
Yeah.
All right. Well, it's a bit late for it now.
Live fast, die young.
The only thing to do now is live forever, isn't it?
Well, that's it. That's the plan. And Marilyn Monroe, of course, rather famously, she had early plastic surgery. She had a chin job early on. She had her chin done.
Well, I'm not asking questions about that.
Yeah, no, she did. She did. As Noel Coward did as well. He had a very early chin job as well. So there we are. Some like it hot. Favourite film, favourite play. Many people choose Shakespeare, but this is an interesting one.
Well, I put down A Comedy of Errors, which I think is just about the funniest thing ever written. And my iconic memory of it is the Trevor Nunn production, which must have been at least 30 years ago at Stratford. And I just remember weeping helplessly all the way through it. It's just such wonderful writing.
And Trevor came out and said, "Lovey, it wasn't that bad."
Well, I wouldn't know. The richness of the language, the invention, and the young Shakespeare just firing on all cylinders. He just couldn't wait to spill it all out and share his fun with everybody else. And it's brilliant writing. It's as alive today as it must have been then.
And the direction, I think, for Shakespeare is all important, because some directors can make a little bit flat and other directors bring out the best of Shakespeare.
Do you think the secret of that might be to let the performers get on with it, to some extent?
It could, well, unless you're a director, and they might disagree with that.
Well, I don't know. I'm just remembering the young Judi Dench in that production, and surely he just gave
a bit of leeway. A bit of leeway for an actor is always good. You have to let them be a part of the part, don't you? Really?
Yes, and I suppose the same's true in opera. Though we now live in the age of the stage director, who they're all powerful, and that can be slightly irritating. Now I'm doing less and less opera. I don't regret being part of that setup. As you get older, you find you accumulate knowledge, and when some young director comes in who doesn't know anything, it can be very, very irritating.
Yeah. How do the people that you direct, how do you think they see you as the director?
What, at Opera at Bearwood?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sure they think I walk on water. I can't possibly do any wrong at all.
Okay, so favourite book, favourite film, favourite play, and holiday. And there are so many wonderful places in the world. We were talking just now about Rupert Brooke, and there is a bit of a link to the place you've mentioned, which I'll mention in a moment.
I can't imagine what that is, but for a significant birthday, my wife and I went to Lemnos, which is quite an isolated island, and near Greece, and we just had the most idyllic time there. And we actually had back-to-back birthdays, so there was a sort of midnight celebration, and it was just a perfect experience. And we often talk about it, and that was a great holiday. And in fact, the Olympic Airways went on strike, and we were stuck there a bit longer than we intended.
What a shame!
It was terrible. Yes.
Did they pay for you?
I can't remember what happened.
Yeah,
we weren't counting the money. It didn't matter.
No, the intriguing thing about Lemnos was it was initially reported, erroneously as it turned out, that Rupert Brooke had died at Lemnos on the way to Gallipoli, one day short of Gallipoli. But it wasn't. It turned out to be Skyros, not Lemnos. But it was reported initially that he died on Lemnos.
Lemnos wouldn't have been on the way to Gallipoli, would it? I'm thinking about the geography.
But the report said he'd died on Lemnos, which he hadn't. So that was the initial report through to Churchill.
My goodness, Mike, you know everything, don't you? Yeah.
No, not really. I couldn't name many other islands. Oh, maybe Mykonos, that. Anyway, so here we are. So Lemnos. Do you go back there now, or do you?
No, we keep talking about it, but we. Maybe it's a good thing not to try to repeat experiences like that. We've discussed it.
Yeah.
But maybe we will. I don't know. But it would be wrong to try and recreate something as special as that.
It's difficult to know. Some people go back year on year because they love somewhere. Others think they don't want to even attempt to recapture a magical period.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think we're in the latter team. The other thing is, of course, we've travelled so much as singers that I'd like to visit some parts of the world that don't have opera houses and don't have festivals. That's what I'd like to do.
Well, is that because you're drawn in once you go there?
Well, I've so often gone to a city where all I've done is sing, rehearse, sing, see the city, hardly get outside, see the countryside, and then they go home again and get on with the next gig. And I'd quite like to see other places that don't have opera houses.
Yeah.
And I think it's one reason I've enjoyed working in the Far East so much, because I've done a lot of work in China and
Bognor Regis is very no opera house in Bognor Regis as far as I know.
Yeah, you're not very far from one.
Always good. Down there, nice shrimping holiday down there with the wife.
Glyndebourne just up the road. You see, it's too close.
Oh yeah, it is too close. Yes, definitely. And well, then you could sneak up to Rodmell, you see, and see where Virginia Woolf drowned and stuff like that, just down the road there.
Oh, how exciting! Gosh, yes, I must do that. Yes.
Yeah.
That's on my bucket list.
Always good. Always good. Well, listen, we got your favourite song coming up to go out with, but great to talk to you. I mean, it's probably the most illustrious sounding name that I've interviewed at BBC Radio Berkshire, Justin Lavender. It's a memorable name, isn't it?
It sounds more interesting than it is. A lavender is just a trade name. A lavender is somebody who does laundry, who does washing.
Very good.
Fletcher or Cooper.
Yes.
And the Justin just comes from my Welsh father. It's a Welsh name. Justin,
yeah.
So that's
sort of Welsh washerman, really.
Yeah.
Welsh laundryman.
That's all I am. Yeah.
Yeah, you could always change if you get bored with Justin Lavender, become Welsh laundryman. It's not bad.
Well, I think Justin Lavender sort of stuck in people's minds now, so I'm stuck with it.
No, excuse me, but fragrant. It's a very fragrant name.
Oh, for goodness sake. Have you heard of the soprano? There's a singer called Claire Primrose, and she and I were working at English National Opera a few years ago in a David Pountney production, and instead of having lavender and primrose on the call sheets, they started putting potpourri.
Oh, I love it. Yes, it's the herbs all over again.
Oh, God.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Now we are going to plug his opera.
If Elvis Parsley joined you, you could have had three of you. Yes, do mention it again. Yes.
Now what we're here for is to sell tickets for Carmen, opera at Bearwood, which is happening from.
I knew I was here for something. That's what it is.
16th to 20th of July, including a matinee on the Saturday the 20th. So please buy tickets and come. It's very exciting. This is an expanded company. We're having tremendous fun in the rehearsals. Everybody's had individual singing lessons, so the choruses are making a roaring great noise.
Wonderful.
And we're hoping to take the roof off. We've got a very exciting production, full of interesting scenes and fights and murders and seductions and all kinds of things happening.
Excellent. Take the roof off, open air theatre, that's what they want. I'll tell you, we'll put it up on the notice board for you as well.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely marvellous. Justin, or Welsh Laundryman, as he's known to his close friends, thank you so much for popping in. I hope it goes well, seriously, and we'll keep it here and we'll give it the odd plug for you. Brilliant.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you very much.
And we're going out with your favourite song, a tricky one, a favourite song.
Yeah, but this is The Rising by Bruce Springsteen, and I think it's a bit like Placido Domingo. You feel yourself lucky to be alive at the same time as a musician of that calibre, and he sings with a heart and passion and sincerity, which I envy, and I think this is a particularly moving song. He produced this album in the aftermath of the 9/11 terrorism massacre, and every song on it is deeply felt, but this is the title song, and I just think it's so exciting, so heartfelt, and so full of benign passion